Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Mass protests swept across Bulgaria this month, triggered not by opposition to the EU, as widely claimed online, but by anger over the 2026 budget, planned tax and social security increases, and long-standing frustration with corruption. Yet Russian-linked accounts quickly reframed the demonstrations as an anti-Brussels uprising, pushing false narratives that spread widely across social media. To explain what really happened and how disinformation on networks exploit such crises, we're joined by Dr. Spasimir Domaradzki. He's a Senior Analyst, Institute of Central Europe, and political scientist at the University of Warsaw. Welcome to TVP World, sir, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for the invitation.
So what's going on? What's going on in Bulgaria? What is the root cause? Is it the protest against the budget? Is it a protest against the EU, or a combination of both of those, or neither of those?
Well, this is an excellent question, and I would probably surprise you to say neither of those. Yes, the budget was one of the elements that brought the people out on the streets, but it is no longer about the budget. The budget was withdrawn, and technically what we see is works in the parliament on the second version that is supposed to be ready as soon as possible. But the appetite of the protesters grew once they were provoked by Boyko Borisov, who in practical terms wanted to check to what extent there is a popular determination, or what is the popular mood, and what he got as a response is a current political outcry that demands for the resignation of the government of Rosner Zhelyadskov, who is in practical terms a puppet of Borisov and Pevsky. So the two political leaders of GERB and the Movement of Rights and Freedoms. The protest is absolutely not against the EU. What is extremely important to stress is that actually the people on the streets are the ones that are the most fervent supporters of European integration. There was an attempt by the pro-Russian party Revival to join the protests and to raise its claims, but they are consistently being marginalized and removed from the protests in a very explicit way, because, as I said, these are the most pro-European segments of the Bulgarian society.
Okay, so it's not anti-EU, and it's not really about the budget, as you say. So what is the next step? What happens next to quell these protests?
Well, we have actually extremely interesting developments over the last 2 weeks. Let me start with the fact that actually the protests are a result of accumulated frustration over the last year. Zhelyadskiv's government and also the judiciary system steered by Delian Pevsky and Boyko Borisov led to a situation in which the mayor of Varna was arrested and spent in custody for more than 4.5 months, which was a blatant violation of his human rights. But the purpose of this detention was to show to the society that there are no restraints on what the government and the current political regime is capable of doing. That literally frustrated the people. The budget and its provisions was the second element that sparked frustration, especially because there were numerous examples how all the principles of doing politics were being violated, including a 30-second session in the European Parliament related in the Bulgarian Parliament related to the budget. These elements revealed the intention of Boyko Borisov and Delian Pevsky, in particular to highlight the strength they gained after the end of the protests in 2024. So what is happening now is that we actually see another episode of the battle that started in 2020 and 2021 against the state capture associated with Boyko Borisov and Delian Pevsky. In other words, after a year of returning to power, they proved that they have no other option, no other way of doing politics than the one that we saw over the last year, and this is what brought people on the streets. We heard Borisov that he is trying to play the responsible statesman, claiming that he will talk about any changes and resignations only after 1st of January, claiming that it is his task and his responsibility to bring Bulgaria to the Eurozone. But we need to be aware that actually the real tangible changes that occurred were during the Petkov's government, and the steps that were being made that brought the country and met some of the expectations from the European Union partners that allowed both Bulgaria to join the Schengen zone and the Eurozone.
So what does this mean? What does this mean for the EU accession process, but also going forward? I mean, should the EU be more active in kind of getting involved and saying, you know, there are limits to powers in democratic countries?
We should not exaggerate this argument and this expectation. The European Union can do as much it can, and we know that the European Union is very careful in observing what is happening in the internal politics of the countries, although we also have examples how in various ways the EU can have an impact. The real challenge is for the European People's Party, of which the GERB party is a noble member, and Borisov for over a decade is absolutely convinced that he's part of the European political mainstream, practically doing in Bulgaria everything that is contradictory to the European values. So, in other words, if there is anything that anyone should do, it is the European People's Party that should take into consideration the way how Bulgaria was being ruled between 2009 and 2021 and over the last year, and make its conclusion whether it prefers to be associated with people with authoritarian sentiments or with a genuine democratic process that is the essence of European integration.
Right, we've just had a report from Reuters which says that it's not only in Sofia that these demonstrations are happening, but in 25 cities across the country. What does that say to you?
Well, I will, first of all, yes, this was already the case a week ago when it turned out that it is a protest that spills across the country and raises awareness and mobilization among the ordinary people, because the things that were occurring over the last year are simply unacceptable in democratic country. But we need to be aware, and I will paraphrase here, the empire strikes back, because yesterday, Delian Pevsky's Movement for Rights and Freedoms, The New Beginning, organized its own, and that's an absolute phenomenon, protests in support of the government, whatever that means, in small towns and villages. So these are the spots where he's capable of generating political support based on absolutely clientelist mechanisms.
Understand. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there, Dr. Domaradzki, but thank you very much for your analysis, and we look forward to having you as a guest again soon. Have a good evening, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And that brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, though. As always, lots more coming up. Goodbye.